Hello, everybody. Today we're going to feature a conversation between Nigel Andrews, a son of New York, a son of Harlem, who began his lacrosse career here in New York City and also then went on to play lacrosse at Harvard. And we're also very, very fortunate today to have Coach Jerry Byrne, the head Harvard lacrosse coach, with us. And today we're going to talk about Nigel's lacrosse experience, Coach Byrne's lacrosse experience, and the possible growth or the growth of diversity and inclusion in lacrosse, one of the goals of CityLax. Nigel, maybe you could, you said you had a really positive experience at Harvard. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what it was like for you as a black and African-American lacrosse player at Harvard, and how do you think your experience may or may not have been different than some of your Caucasian teammates?
Yeah. I think in all honesty, when I was with my team, interacting with my teammates, my experience wasn't all that different than my white teammates. We did have a lot of diversity of backgrounds and upbringings and opinions. And I thought that our team was very good at being understanding of people's differences and accepting of people's differences. And we had a very open dialogue with each other about our differences, and we were always willing to hear another person's perspective.
What thoughts do you have about steps that can be taken to have more African-American lacrosse players in our game?
Yeah. Well, I think Coach Byrne touched on a point earlier that a coach's number one priority is to win games. And I think a lot of people put a lot of onus on college coaches for not recruiting enough diverse people for their teams. Well, I think that is true, that there aren't a lot of coaches recruiting that many black and brown players. I think the responsibility mostly falls on the other end. So I think organizations like CityLax and other inner city organizations trying to get lacrosse sticks into black kids' hands is the first step in kind of increasing the amount of black players in colleges like Harvard.
And Coach Byrne put you in a tough place to follow that wonderful response by Nigel. Maybe you can talk a little bit, Coach, about how you think organizations like CityLax and how club lacrosse programs and other lacrosse programs working with the underserved lacrosse community, what role you think these organizations could have, Coach, in increasing the pipeline of lacrosse players for lacrosse recruitment and for college lacrosse.
No, I agree. I thought Nigel's answer covered the real critical things. You have access challenges, you have finance challenges, but you also have kind of motivation challenges from the guys running the club teams. You know, they're running small businesses. They want to win as well. So even the most broad-minded, socially aware club coach, he's not too far away from the college coach who's like, I have to do well at this tournament. I need my team to do really well so that the college coaches will come watch my team play. Those barriers, I think organizations like CityLax can, have an outreach effort to whether it's the NLF, which is a big club team organization, or any of these event things. Like you should consider leaving one slot open, and we'll put a CityLax team in every single one of those tournaments. It's not just the recruiting benefit; it is the life lessons and the community building benefits and the broadening, not only of student athletes coming from CityLax, coming from one of the 5 boroughs and ending up in Western Massachusetts for a tournament at UMass, but it's also kids who, like me, who never met a person of color until he was 18 years old and walked into a locker room in college. Like, if you can break down those barriers, you can break down the misperceptions and misconceptions that people have of people who are other.
Coach, that was a tremendous response and insight. And on behalf of CityLax, I want to thank you for that. Nigel, maybe we can come back to you. And you talked a little bit about what it was like to arrive at Deerfield and a little bit at Harvard, and how people were sometimes surprised to see you as a lacrosse player. What are your thoughts, Nigel, on what the lacrosse community itself can do to bring in more people that are more diverse to broaden our inclusion?
I think that it starts with the broader community taking initiative and saying, all right, we're going to proactively go out of our way to help some people who need our help to get into the community, and take initiative and do those steps, because the lacrosse community is a wonderful community to be a part of long after you finish playing lacrosse. Just the power of saying you were a Division I lacrosse player lasts with you for a long time. Being part of that community is extremely, extremely powerful, and something that a lot of Black and brown people could use for their advantage, and can help them be extremely successful professionally long after they finish playing lacrosse.
Well, thank you for that, Nigel. And that was a very, very a very insightful sort of conversation. So maybe the same question to you, Coach, as a sort of a little bit of a longer tenured member of our lacrosse community. What steps do you think our overall lacrosse community can do to foster more Pierres, more Nigels, more lacrosse players, both men and women of color in our lacrosse community?
I think the goal should be, participation, inspiration, and then obviously aspiration to try to get you to do well in school, to graduate, and then give you opportunities to go from there. And I think a lot of those efforts are being made through organizations like CityLax, and there's a CityLax type organization in pretty much every major city. And the challenges, I think, are financial. You're seeing gym classes. Gym classes are being eliminated, where gym used to be where you couldn't wait to go to gym class when you were growing up, because, all right, what sport are they introducing to us today? So I think between U.S. Lacrosse and the different CityLax type organizations that are dotted around the country, they're taking the place of the gym classes. They're getting sticks into the hands of kids, and then seeing, hey, is there a light going on, and a bunch of people who want to play that, and kind of take it from there. So the investment obviously is always a challenge, but I think all those organizations in those cities are trying to expand the awareness and the trying out of, hey, try this new sport. So I think you look at a top-down U.S. Lacrosse strategy, which is kind of sprinkling money and sticks and starter programs in different geographies around the country, and then you have the bottom-up strategy around CityLax and Winners and Owls and different groups like that to get exposure to the sport. I think then that's where the club organizations and the event organizers come together.
Maybe, Coach, you can talk to us a little bit about steps that maybe we can take to see if we can find and locate and have more African Americans, more Black and brown Americans participate and have this experience at Harvard Lacrosse. Maybe some thoughts on that, Coach, to sort of take us home here.
The alumni, the sense of community, and why CityLax is so important, and organizations that are trying to create community in a time, as Nigel referred to, when communities are becoming fractured because of politics and the economy and social justice, and that forcing these tough, having a space where people who look different or come from different backgrounds can come together, whether it's a team like Harvard or a practice at CityLax, to create that space, at a time where not everyone's back in school and things like that, is creating those opportunities are crazy powerful, because I know that some of my best learning took place away sometimes from coaches and from parents, where you were with friends or maybe even enemies on something, where you could find ways to resolve differences. And I don't think that building community, I don't think there's a more important tool of organizations like CityLax than creating those opportunities for community to come together and to happen. So whether it's the Harvard community supporting our recruiting or CityLax supporting the growth of lacrosse in the 5 boroughs, if it affects one person positively, that's a win. And that's the way I look at my messaging to the players and the community of Harvard. I'm not looking to change the world, because if I look to do that, I might fall short and be disappointed. But I'm looking to change our players' experience at Harvard one person at a time, one team at a time. And if they can go out into the world and be successful and make an impact, then that's a win. And I think CityLax has the same aspirations.
Coach, you couldn't have taken us home better. Thank you so much. And I think one of the things that Matt Levine, the founder of CityLax, talks about is that he's not looking to change the world. He's looking to have an impact here in New York City. And he says one person at a time. And he also says one ground ball at a time, Coach. So thank you so much, Coach, for your words today, for taking your time. Again, we're so pleased to have you here as part of the Harvard Lacrosse family. Nigel, I remember with fondness when you accepted, your highly recruited player when you said yes that you were going to Harvard. So now that experience is over. Again, it's wonderful to have you as a member now of the Harvard Lacrosse alumni. To both of you, Coach Byrne and Nigel, thank you both so much for taking the time this morning to have a wonderful conversation about some important issues and about CityLax, an organization that means so much both to me, to Nigel, and obviously to you too, Coach Byrne. Thank you both.